If you're not networking, then you're losing out on opportunities. Join me this week as we chat about how I create opportunities through networking with Heidi Torres on season 2 of the Fanny Dunagan Show. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my live show. My name is Fanny Dunagan, and every 2 weeks, I come to you with industry leaders, content creators, and people that just lead and create with their heart, with a servant leadership attitude. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. This week, we're going to talk all around networking. But before we get to our guests, please introduce yourself in the comments and let everyone know who you are, what you do, and where you're tuning in from. Let's see who is tuning in this week. Oh, wow, we have some new people, some new names that I haven't seen before. Brad Seal, welcome from Lake Highlands in Dallas. Welcome, Brad. Kevin from Little Elm, Texas. We were just talking about you, Kevin. Jennifer from Amarillo, Texas. Awesome, representing Texas. Steve, hey Steve, welcome. Everyone, you have to connect with Steve. Steve Spiro has a great show every Friday. Steve, please feel free to plug your show in the comments. Let people know about your Master Networks live show. Master Connector, yes. And you're going to have tons to contribute, I'm sure, to this week's networking theme. And our president of the Association of Business Technology Professionals, Mike Rochelle, please say a hello to him. If you are at all any way connected in the technology industry, you'll want to know Mike Rochelle. He is the man to know in technology. Allison, welcome. From Plano, David Cause. From East Texas, David, always great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Brian Madison from Frisco. Keith from Fort Worth. Hey, Keith, great to see you. Keith, A big shout out to Keith. I recorded a podcast with Keith and Don Williams, and Keith masterminded all the video production side behind the scenes. So if you are into video production, make sure you connect with Keith Mathis, or if you're interested in having that service, make sure you connect with Keith. Braden, always great to see you. Dolores, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And please take advantage of this opportunity to network with each other. Like I said, please let everyone know what you do, where you're tuning in from, and your expertise. And I challenge you to connect with 3 new people that you didn't know before in the comments. My audience, I can't be more grateful at how wonderful you all are, and just great human beings. So make sure you connect with each other as well. And tag your friends to join. We would love to have some new folks join our show. So I want to kind of kick it off, as always, and talk about my content tip of the week. And this week, it's all around giving away your tips. And what I mean by that is tips, advice, pieces of knowledge, blogs, they're everywhere on the internet. And they're a dime a dozen. And at the end of the day, advice and tips are actually nothing without execution. So give them away. At the end of the day, even if they know your tips and advice, if people aren't executing on them, or if they're not, getting your coaching or consulting or your advice on them to execute, it's not going to be effective. So don't hesitate to give away little snippets of your tips and advice. A lot of people hoard that and kind of keep it secret, and then the world doesn't know what you have to offer. The world doesn't know what to buy from you. When you give away your tips and little pieces of advice, then people start to get to know you. People start to follow you for your expertise. You become a thought leader, and you really establish yourself as an expert in your field. So don't be afraid to give away your tips and establish yourself as a leader and expert in your field. And at the end of the day, if they're not going to pay you for your coaching or your consulting, they just wanted to follow you anyways. At the end of the day, tips and advice think of them as like movie trailers, right? We watch movie trailers and they get us all excited about the movie. In this case, your tips and micro content get people all excited about your coaching and consulting services, so that ultimately they buy your coaching and consulting services. And ultimately, when you watch a movie trailer, you eventually buy the movie ticket to go watch the movie. So don't hesitate to give away your tips and advice. At the end of the day, it's nothing without execution, and you're the person to help them execute. And that's my content tip of the week. Okay. And if you want more tips and advice, make sure you go follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Fanny Dunagan. I have over 35 videos there with tons of content tips around LinkedIn, and you'll find tons of free resources there for you to implement. Okay. At this time, I want to invite my community manager for the show, Ann Small. We have a new segment called Creator of the Week, and Ann will be featuring someone from LinkedIn that's a great LinkedIn resource and coach. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Ann Small to the show. Hey, Ann, how are you?
I am great, Fanny, and very excited to announce the Creator of the Week.
Awesome.
Drum roll, please. You ready?
Ooh, I need a soundbite.
Our Creator of the Week really stood out for her branding on LinkedIn, guys. Her name, and we're going to put it up there. It is inside the comments. I'll put all the links. Lacey Abachi. And if I pronounced your last name wrong, I am so sorry. But her content stood out to us. Oh, my goodness, guys. First of all, let us just say we're going to put the link to her profile there. But her consistent branding, when you take a look at that profile, and I don't know, yep, Fanny, you're able to bring it up. Consistent branding from the banner right there and her headshot down to the featured right below. The colors, everything was consistent. So for doing LinkedIn branding and helping people with that, wow. I was looking at one of her recent articles. I'll put the link there for y'all. And it is the biggest mistakes that you make on LinkedIn. And boy, it was personable. It's something we can all relate with. And I'll put that down there for you. The next thing I want to bring up is the hashtag that she is using. The hashtag that she's using is brilliant. Lacyisms. And I'll put that down there for you too. But Fanny recently did a tip on that about using hashtags and Lacyisms that really stood out. She talked also a lot about the fact of it's not just creating content, but it's what we're always saying is it's also the engagement and the importance of engagement there, because you can create all the fantastic content you want, but if you don't put a question at the end or some way for people to engage, then where is it going to go? So let me just sum this up, because that's going to be the last part of our tips, the fifth part that she always ends with a question. She's consistent with her branding and colors, great content. I'll refer to this article, her hashtag Lacyisms, the amazing write-up about the importance of engagement, and the fact that she ends with a question to make sure that that engagement happens. So kudos to you, Lacey. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah. So every week we will feature every other week on the show, we will feature a different content creator to also help you on your LinkedIn journey. So make sure you follow us. And in this case, make sure you reach out to Lacey Abachi and follow her as well. I think she's exceeded her connections. If I saw correctly, she has over 172,000 followers. So,
and I'm really glad you said that. Let's bring this up. She even says it's not the followers that matters. It's not the number of followers. And she did a whole article on that in itself. It's more than 176,000, Fanny.
Yeah, there you go. So folks, our feature creator of the week, make sure you go out and follow Lacey. And we're here to connect you to a lot of LinkedIn resources to help you with your content journey. Thank you, Anne. Make sure you all connect with Anne as well. She is our engagement and community manager for the show. Okay, thank you, Anne. Okay, guys. So now we are getting to the meat of our show, how to create opportunities through networking. Everyone, please join me in welcoming our amazing guest this week, Heidi Torres with Heron HR, and she is also the author of the CEOs of Networking. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Fanny, because you are amazing. I agree with every one of the viewers.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I want to read to folks your bio here. I found it so fascinating. So Heidi Torres was raised deep in the heart of Texas. She studied at 14 schools, lived in 3 countries. Some would say she has gypsy blood running through her because she loves to travel and meet new people. So far, she's visited 22 states and 6 countries. She's learned at an early age how to build connections and pursue a career in sales. She went from being a salesperson to leading and developing progressively larger sales team that spans 3 states. And she was promoted to HR supervisor, oversaw the HR needs for more than 200 employees. And in 2020, she graduated cum laude from Texas Women's University with a BBA in HR management. And after graduation, she became a SHRM certified professional and networked her way to becoming Heron HR's HR generalist. She's currently pursuing an MBA at West Texas A&M University and wrote the book, The CEOs of Networking, Connecting, Engaging, and the Opportunities to Serve. That's what her CEO stands for. and it's set to publish her book in August 2021. I love the subject of network. I find it fascinating. And you like literally wrote a book and researched it too, Heidi. So that's amazing. But before we kind of get into your book, like tell us how you kind of got into this world of HR and sales. How'd you combine those two?
Well, it was kind of funny. So I was working for this retailer for many, many years. And after pretty much having every department you could have at that retailer, they asked me to be their HR supervisor. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. What is HR? I mean, they're like, well, you get to train and hire pretty much everyone. And I was like, I'm in. I mean, like, that is it, right? Because that's actually what I really loved about what I was doing anyways, was training and developing my sales team, hiring the right people for the job, and just really setting them up for success. So when I found out there was actually a role for that, I mean, that was something to do. I was like, I've got to do more of this. I got to find a way to do this. And went back to school and decided that's truly what I was going to pursue. I wanted to master that as much as I could. So yeah, I went back to school and dove into HR.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. So everyone be sure to connect with Heidi Torres. That's her profile right there. And I want to play a short clip because we're going to dive a lot deeper into your book. And I want people to kind of see this little introduction of it. So let me pull that up here and let's get to it. Give me one sec. This is what happens when you produce your own show. You're doing all the clicking. So yeah, let's hear the history of how you came about this book.
Hi, my name is Heidi Torres, aka HR Heidi, and I'm the author of the CEOs of Networking, Connecting, Engaging, and the Opportunities to Serve. My book is about the intersection of the way we were told to network in the past and the way networking has evolved during the pandemic. This book explores why traditional networking doesn't work and how networking has evolved during the pandemic through social media, and why networking doesn't have to feel like work. I was compelled to write this book because my colleagues and former classmates often share their distress of not knowing how to network or where to start networking. My reasons for writing this book are to help as many people as possible have better relationships and show them how networking can connect them to their goals. Networking can lead to deeper connections and growth opportunities, even if you're an introvert like me. I believe in paying it forward. Growing and utilizing my network has helped me land my last 3 professional roles, raise thousands of dollars for nonprofit organizations such as Alzheimer's associations, and help countless people find jobs. My book shares stories and techniques from top-level networkers and business leaders who continually help by serving and putting others first. In my book, I share how I moved beyond my self-imposed limits to really listening and engaging with my professional and personal connections. I will show you how to get energized by helping others fulfill their goals and dreams. This book includes stories and insights from The Right Words founder Janie Cohen, social movement leaders Kevin Dawson and Trevor Houston, Better Call Daddy podcaster Rena Freeman-Watt, the host of Pathways to Success Julian Platino, PathLink's CEO Fanny Dunagan, and many more amazing networking leaders from companies like Amazon and BNI. My book also shares tips from Thrive Global CEO Ariana Huffington and Adam Forrest Rifkin, who was dubbed by Forbes as one of the best networkers in the world. One of my favorite stories in my book is why introvert Rob Bidil became the BNI leader in the Southwest region of Ontario, who is known for connecting business owners one conversation at a time. I don't want to spoil it for you, so you'll just have to read my book to find out why. My hope is that readers will find the humanity in networking and realize that while they might need to network for work or their business, it doesn't have to feel like work when you're doing it. I want readers to take away some practical techniques on how they can connect and build relationships through NetPlane. You will enjoy my book if you're an introvert and nervous about networking, looking for new career opportunities, a recent graduate joining the workforce, or simply wanting to learn how to connect and build trusted relationships. I am HR Heidi Torres, and the CEOs of Networking is a secret recipe to connecting and engaging your network through opportunities of serving others.
That's awesome. Heidi, I mean, you put so much research into it, but give us a little background on like why you even decided to write a book about networking.
Well, I mean, kind of like the video says, I really had people continually asking me how I was growing my network. And they understood, kind of like me, I was told you need to network as a professional, you need to really get out there and do this, but they didn't tell you how to do it, right? And so I struggled along the way, and I learned my own technique, but I realized there are better networkers out there than me, and I wanted to learn from them. So I did the research, and I was continually sharing, and I just continue to share that even now because I still continue to learn different ways. But that, I think, is a key thing, is really to just go out there and willing to try, right? I had a lot of people that I connected with that was very graceful in my awkwardness when I first started out. So I appreciate them. But yeah, I wanted to help my classmates and my colleagues find their way to network, especially for those who had never done it.
Yeah. I mean, you did tons of research. Like where did you go for your sources of information?
I did start out small, and I watched a lot of different podcasts. And then I watched TED Talks, and I think actually one of our viewers, Miss Teresa Ramis, is on here, and she has a TED Talks, and I saw her, and that's how I actually connected with her.
Awesome.
By reaching out to her. So yeah, she's amazing. She is the queen of networking up in Canada, and literally started contacting through LinkedIn, mostly through LinkedIn, I'll be honest. Setting up appointments, talking, but like with you, we were connected with Michael Goldberg, right?
Yes. Shout out to Michael Goldberg for introducing us.
So,
you have to help us tag Michael Goldberg in.
So we met at his networking event and introduced. And then when I started researching this book, I'm like, oh, I've got to talk to Fanny. I have got to talk to her about this. And so, yeah, I mean, it was, and then you referred me to someone else, and it just snowballed into all these different wonderful, amazing interviews and research, and just diving into whatever I could find, books, podcasts, you name it.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from you guys in the audience. How many of you actually enjoy networking? And let us know if you hate networking too. Let us know in the comments below whether you love networking or you dislike networking and why. I'm curious. We'll do our own little mini research right here in the comments of the show, because we have a whole bunch of folks in the comments right now listening in. Let's do like a little mini survey here. Who loves networking? Give us a thumbs up. And then who dislikes networking? Give us a thumbs down. Yes, or just mention it in the comments. Yeah, there's Teresa. Is that who you were talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
She's amazing. She's amazing. In fact, actually last night I had a virtual networking event for my people who pre-bought my book. And so we had a little thing, and I read my introduction with them, and Teresa was gracious enough to also join us and support me too. So.
Awesome. So you all have to connect with Teresa. How do you pronounce her last name? Riyum?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. She's joining us from Facebook. Awesome. And then Angela Hill. This is a challenge since college students have a totally different mindset. I coach students on scholarship searching and encourage them to make sure networking is a resource for them. Oh, yes. There's all the different generations as well that really should take advantage of networking. I know when I was in college, networking wasn't even a word that I really knew. Like, did you talk to some millennials in your research?
I did. And, it's kind of funny. I actually did a survey on LinkedIn about different generations, and it's also my book, but I'm going to share a little bit. This was actually really surprising. So Generation Z, 78% said they preferred in-person networking. I really didn't think it was going to be that large. I was like, okay.
This is Gen Z. Gen
Gen
Z.
Z.
So like that's
born
30,
after 1995.
1995. Okay.
Yeah. So they were born after 1995 and they preferred in person. 11% of them preferred social media, just interacting in social media.
Yep.
And then oddly enough, 11% didn't think networking was interesting. I mean, like necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. The millennials, it was actually a little more split, right? So between 80s and 94, 70% believed in person was the way to do it.
Yeah.
15% preferred virtual, like Zoom and that kind of platforms. 7% only social media. And then again, 7% didn't think it was necessary. The baby boomers, I'm going to skip Generation X for a second, but the baby boomers said 78% preferred in person. So they were actually tied with the Gen Z, right? I was like, really?
Yeah. See, there are commonalities, guys, between millennials and or Gen Z and baby boomers. Yes.
Right. So, I mean, you know, sometimes it's just the place that you are in your life. I think a lot of times. Gen X, 75% believed in person was still the way to go, and 18% preferred virtual. So, and only 7% for social media for them.
And don't you think, Heidi, like at the end of the day, I think whether we're extroverts or introverts or whatever demographics we are, we all have this, I think, innate need for connection, right? Like, you know, even if we're the shyest person, like we still want to have friends and we still want to feel connected to people. Did you come across that as well?
Yes. And so, you know, actually I did a lot of research that networking and connecting is actually good for your health. So mental health, right? Mental health is a big thing right now. I mean, it's a big thing always, but I mean,
we're in Mental Health Month, actually. May
exactly. Right. And they literally said, because of the pandemic, we have been so isolated that it's causing us all these negative things. It's causing us depression. It's causing us to gain weight. Our cortisone levels are higher. I mean, it's just feeds onto a whole thing. And then that whole, the Zoom stress, the Zoom fatigue, something you didn't even hear about before, is a real thing, right? And it's just one of those isolation. And people had to really worry, especially for the elderly, right? Because they were more susceptible. And then all of a sudden they can be with their families. And that was another scary thing that the pandemic forced upon us. So
absolutely. And we have a whole spectrum. We have Sharon says she's new to networking, but you're always here, Sharon. We love it. This is networking itself, online networking. Keith loves it. Roxanne gives it a thumbs up. David Cause loves it. Oh, Cecilia, all the way from Canada. It's a lifeline of what I do. Absolutely. Dominic loves it. Yeah. So like, I mean, people, like you said, like 75%, right? Across a lot of the spectrums really enjoy networking. Molly, oh, that's a great question. And feel free to drop that into the comments as well. Molly Walsh, hey, Molly from Founders Institute. She says, what are some of your top favorite and most memorable networking events and why? That's a great one.
One of my favorite ones was actually back in 2019. It was at the HR Southwest conference, and it was my first time going to that conference. And to put it in perspective, there were like, I want to say over 1,000 people, maybe like 1,500 people attending it, right?
Wow.
And it was huge. It filled up the Fort Worth Convention Center. But the interactions, I mean, I guess when you network with people in your own industry, first of all, you have that commonality.
Yes.
So it instantly ties you into something there, right?
Yes.
But I met so many amazing people there from all over Texas and beyond. One of the speakers was actually Tom Topping. And I think he's actually based out of Florida. Amazing, right? We actually had lunch together. Bruce Waller, for those who don't know, right?
Yes. Yeah, we both know him. Yep. Big in the Dallas HR industry. Yes.
Yes. You know, ran into him. He was actually also one of the speakers, and it was phenomenal. And at the time, I had a different employer, but they supported going, and you know, we all hung out there too. But we all met other people, and it was just so much fun. It was a great event, and I'm super excited to even go this year. So this year I'm volunteering with them, and I love it. I'm so excited that we're going to be in person for it.
Yeah, I know. Slowly we're getting back to normal. So, I mean, you already mentioned quite a few of the benefits of networking, right? And the importance of networking. Are there, you mentioned even mental health, right? It's really helped our mental health to be networking and connecting with people. What other benefits haven't we talked about? What is something else that came out of your research on the importance of networking?
Well, I think a lot of it is that it helps you stay on top of your industry. What's the latest and greatest going on? So a lot of people say, well, they don't network outside of their internal organization, and what they're missing out on is other people's perspectives on what's going on, right? But when you network, you also meet potential clients, partners, and mentors. So I actually firmly believe that I mentioned Bruce Waller. He became my unofficial mentor because he just shares so much great knowledge, and he's just so caring. But I would have never met him if had it not been for networking. It helps you improve your people skills, right? And kind of going back and forth. So internal and external networking. One of the people I mentioned in my book, her name is Amanda. She literally met her husband through networking. And actually, so did Bruce. Bruce met his wife through networking too. So,
so you can find love through networking.
You can find love, yes. You take that networking to net friending and go beyond.
I love that. Networking to net friending to net marriage. And you've kind of seen it evolve, right? Like networking has also evolved. You talk about the evolution of networking. What do you mean by that? What have you seen, like a lot of changes through the research and what's come out?
I have. I will kind of share my initial thoughts. So whatever your beliefs are, I actually believe strongly in God. So I talk initially about Adam and Eve and how, I thought it was very reassuring that the divine brought two people together so they would not be lonely and they had a common purpose, right? So that to me was the very first networking
connection. Yeah.
And then technology really pushes, networking. So you have the telegraph, and for those who may or may not remember the brick mobile phone, the very first phone, right? Connecting you outside. Then you went to like BNI. It became in '85 is a franchise networking group. They actually franchised the idea of networking. I thought that was amazing. LinkedIn, right? 2002. We are because of LinkedIn. We are connecting.
Yes.
And then social media platforms went from MySpace to Facebook to Pinterest, and the pandemic forces us now to go to Zoom, a lot of Zooms and Remos, and with hybrid events and Clubhouse and and YouTube and TikTok. So all of these are different ways to network. And it just keeps evolving. And we have hybrid events. I see in the future, we're going to have those virtual reality where we have the gloves and the in-persons and we can.
Yes. That's true. I never thought about it. So there you go, folks, all the way from Adam and Eve to Clubhouse. You managed to connect that whole spectrum of networking. I love it. Yeah. We just had a quick question from David Mills. David Mills says, will there be a recording and replay of this? Yes, David. Replays are immediately available after this live event. So please, you can definitely watch it over again. And actually, a few folks have brought up the fact that they're an introvert, right? Delora says, I'm an introvert. I can network depending on the situation. However, it's not always comfortable to network when you don't know anyone there. Any words of wisdom and advice for, because you even said yourself, are you a self-proclaimed introvert, Heidi?
I am. I didn't think I was an introvert, and it wasn't until I had to first start networking that I realized I was an introvert, because it was draining initially. I mean, I was super tired, and I really had to have a mind shift. I mean, it was a mind shift of of what to do. And I'll go into a little bit about what changed that for me. But some tips. Here's some tips. You need to set some reasonable expectations, right? And you need to define what success is for you. So if you know you're going to a very specific event that you need to network at, and I do want to stress that every opportunity is for networking, not just going to an event. But if you happen to go to an event, think about what that event is, who's going to be there, and try and do a little bit of research. I feel that preparation is the key in this kind. So if you know very specific people are going to be there and you want to meet those people, do so. Find a way, you can scope out the area and really work your way in. Now, some people will disagree with this, but I truly believe that networking is not a solo event, and I think it's okay to take a wingman or wingwoman with you. So it was actually kind of one of my perks for some of my pre-orders. There was a thing that if you bought so many books, I would actually be your wingwoman, just saying. And this is not saying that to stick on you, to glue the whole event, but it is a way for a connector. So if you knew someone that is more of a connecting person and you're like really not that connecting person, it's okay to have that connector there to help introduce you to other people. The other thing is ask questions, right? Ask questions so that the other person talks more than you. And it's much more comfortable for you when they're talking. So be interested in what what they want to say. I mean, I feel like growing up, that was the key thing for me, is being interested in other people, which then made me seem more engaging by just asking those questions. And then, this may seem obvious also, but put away your phone, put it away, stick it in your pocket, stick it in your purse, stick it in wherever your jacket, and be in the moment. Be totally with that person and know that you're going to decompress afterwards, right? I think those are the good ones.
Wow. There you go, folks. We listed it all, 6 of them right there for introverts out there. It's so true. I think especially the asking questions, right? I did all those assessments and all that. And, my number one strength is connectedness and for the Strengths Finder. But and I was an extrovert, but I always feel like I'm like a quiet extrovert because, there's days where I can't bear to talk to anyone. Like I'm just done. But then other days, I get on this show and I just feel so excited. And I do get a lot of energy from talking to people. But I think to your point, asking questions, right? Be really curious, be present. I think that in itself, if we forget every other piece of advice, that probably would be number one, right? To ask questions.
It is. Right? I kind of think of it like a scavenger hunt, right? If you want to make a game out of it, find out that piece of information. John Godoy he calls it the treasure hunt. I believe more like scavenger hunt because I think it's more fun. But trying to find that nugget of truth about the other person that really helps you connect, because then you can build upon those commonalities, those interests, and really connect with that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So David Mills, he's an absolute introvert here. So I hope some of Heidi's tips helped you just now. Here's a point from Anne, right? So I think because there were a few folks in the comments talking about this 30-second elevator pitch, right? Or commercial when you go in and talk, right? What do you think about that? A lot of people promote, okay, go in there and make sure you have your elevator pitch ready or your 30-second commercial. What do you think about that when networking?
So yes, you should know your business. I mean, obviously you're there for a purpose, but I don't even try and share mine unless it's at a structured event where you're supposed to share it. If you're an in-person event, other than my name, I really don't initially even start off with that. I just say, hi, I'm Heidi. Who are you? What do you do? I want to know about them. So I just let them go. And then organically, I can bring up whatever it is. I also believe, and this is where I guess the opportunity to serve really comes to focus for me, is that it's easier to champion a cause that you believe in versus just, hey, it's all about me.
Right.
I'm not really a big fan of, that. And I think that's when people think about networking negatively, they think it's all transactional and it's all salesy and no, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I be prepared with what you do and know what you do, obviously, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about that elevator pitch unless you know that you're going to a very structured event. And then you can have a little script. You can have it written down.
Okay. Yeah. Why not? Braden also asked, and I think this speaks to your point about having a wingman or a wingwoman, right? Would you recommend attending a networking event with a partner or spouse, or to go alone? But and to your point, it's sometimes nice just to go with someone. Like, you don't have to hang out together the whole night, but just to know, like, your friends at the other side of the room or something. Exactly. Have you done that a lot?
Yes. And you need it. Well, I would say it depends upon your partner or your friend, right? So if your spouse is a total introvert, then bringing them along is not going to do you any good. Right? That won't do you any good. But if your friends,
I'm imagining my husband at the networking event. So no. Yeah.
But then, if your friend is, very outgoing, then bring them along, but don't just stay in a conversation with them. The point is to get to know other people. And so if you know one person, go there and start talking to them. And then when someone comes up, immediately say, hey, for me, like, hey, I'm Heidi. Who are you? And just immediately welcome other people. Right? And let them start talking. Again, as an introvert, it takes all the pressure off of you. It takes the pressure off of you. Let them talk. And the same thing with your friend. If your friend's really engaging, let them be the connector. Let them reach out. And again, get that conversation rolling. So, but yeah, two introverts going together is not going to work.
Yeah. And I do feel that sometimes it just takes a little, like, to get going, right? Like, so especially if you find that one person that then you kind of get the juices going and you start talking, and then it kind of gets easier, right? Like, the first awkward conversation always feels awkward, right? But then, like, by the third or fourth one you're having, then it's almost like you're in flow, right? You just start yapping away or asking questions, right? Do you get like that? I get like that.
I do. I mean, I think that's really to me, is when I start just connecting to people. So I remember I was at this one event and I started off with just literally talking to one person. It was Heather. And we were just talking, and someone else kind of just walked by, and I just kind of reached over and said, hey, how you doing? And they're like, hi. And I was like, come on over. And I go, I'm Heidi. This is Heather. Who are you? And then they started talking, right? And then another person kind of walked by, and it was the same thing. And then, this is Heather. This is John. Who are you? And it was this conversation, and
it's like momentum going.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Teresa says from Facebook, I've gone to many events with another and did not see them until the end of the night when you're leaving. Yeah. But it's true. And it's almost like it just gives you a little bit extra courage just to walk in with somebody, and then you guys can go do your thing. Right.
Yeah. And then you can press afterwards alone.
Yes. David Mills says, what do you do at a networking event when the first question people ask is, what do you do? And you don't have a quick and easy answer to that question. That's why I hate networking events. Good question, David.
Well, you don't even have to talk about your work necessarily. You could try something fun, or, kind of switch it over. I really love to cook. My favorite dish is XYZ, lasagna. I make a mean lasagna, by the way. So anyways, and then kind of just take that and then say, or you could talk about what you do and say, oh, I'm in insurance and I help people save money. And that's fine. Most people don't want to talk about insurance, and I'm not talking badly about insurance people. They don't want to talk about it. But you can help say I'm save money, or you could just start off with, I help people save money. Right.
Yes.
And then it kind of draws in like, oh, well, how do you do that?
Right. And then you keep it more easy, like a more general topic versus something very specific. Right. Yeah. Cecilia says, talking less helps us sharpen our listening skills. Oh, definitely. A plus for introverts who prefer to listen than talk. Yes. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. So ask. smartly until we get better at talking. Yes, so true, so true. And Teresa, I love that piece of advice. I always look for the person who looks awkward and bring them into our conversation. Yes, I love that. I love that.
That's one of my favorite reasons why I'm part of Dallas HR is when I first went to their networking events. If you were sitting off by yourself, you were not going to be sitting there very long by yourself because people would come over and ask you, hey, how you doing? Why are you over here by yourself? I remember it's kind of a running joke that we had talked about this before, that I was a LinkedIn selfie queen. So I would take these pictures.
I remember that. I remember that.
But in order to remember everything, I would run off to the corner, like kind of, and hide and like quickly write down the names or, quickly post something so I wouldn't forget. And I remember I was over there purposely off to the side. And sure enough, someone would come over, kind of like, they were probably friends of Teresa. They came over and said, hey, what are you doing? Why are you over here by yourself? So, yeah.
And then there's, you had a very interesting finding from your research, and you said men and women network differently. What do you mean by that?
So I'll tell you, men's been doing networking a lot longer than women, or at least professionally. They've been doing it a lot longer than professionally. And I'm not saying women don't do this, but men tend to be more to the point. They know that they're there. If they're going to a networking event, they know that they're there for networking and they want to get their message out. Boom, right? Mm-hmm. Women, it's harder for the most part. Whether you're an introvert or not, it's still harder because we were raised not to really self-promote ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? So we want to build relationships, and we'll do business with people that we do build relationships with, and we're loyal to those businesses, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about your favorite stores, your favorite restaurants, it's usually because you have great service. There was great service there. You build a relationship with those aspects of your life. And the same thing with our connections, our professional connections, our personal connections, our family, we build on those relationships, right? And so for women, it's kind of like the reason of the gender gap, right? We talk about how men make more money than women. It's the same thing. Here's the key thing though, for women, if they were championing a friend or someone they knew, they would actually make more money or get more money for that person than a man would. A man would get the same amount of money if they were championing for someone else or themselves. But a woman would get more money if they were championing for someone else, not themselves.
Yeah.
Same thing for networking. If they had a cause or they had that relationship, then it's easier for them and they're willing to trust that. Men, men, they're like, we're here. I want to get my business. Let's talk. And I'm not saying some women are like that too. And I actually think more women probably need to lean more that way because it just makes connections. If you're for professional connections, it just makes things quicker. Yeah. But that trust, and I will say that men I've noticed more men now have become more trusting and want to get that longer because they know in the long run it works out for them than the quick to the point and move on, right? So it's still building that relationship, but men are more willing just to get it out there, just to lay it out there and start from that point. Women want to ease into it. Yeah. Because I think we still have that perception that it's almost not as acceptable, right? Because we don't want to come off. We care more about what the other person thinks. Mm-hmm. I don't know, the audience, I want to hear about your thoughts.
Yeah, let us know. Do you guys think that men and women network differently? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. I know for me, even when I first started, I think I didn't really actively start networking till maybe 5-6 years ago. And at that time I was promoting a job fair. So to your point, I had a cause, right? I had something that was kind of bigger than myself. And so I would go to these and hey, we're organizing a job fair to help the community get jobs and connect employers to job seekers. So I could talk about that really easily versus if I had to go in there and say, hi, I'm Fanny, I'm a LinkedIn content strategist. And even now, like sometimes I hesitate a little bit, right? Because I really do think it's ingrained, and I'm speaking for myself, okay? It's really ingrained in me as a female to kind of like, you know, even in school, like wait for your turn to speak up, you know, raise your hand before you speak up, right? Even just the school system, right? Raise your hand before you speak up. And you don't want to be like too aggressive or too assertive. Like there's all these like too something that I think, yeah, like if we talk too much about ourselves and we're egotistical, or, you know, like there's so many like of these isms that we have in our heads. And it really wasn't until I was an entrepreneur that I realized that I had to get out of that, right? Yeah. Like even in meetings in corporate, right? You know, having that voice, right? And I would wait till everyone else spoke before I would speak, right? So yeah, I think our upbringing does make us network and speak differently. I don't know about your past, Heidi. Like, what have you kind of transitioned over your career as well in terms of networking?
I have. You know, I was actually thinking when I was actually a job seeker, and you mentioned a career fair. I remember at the career fair thinking two things. One, I wanted obviously to get a job, but two, I was at the time trying to find speakers for my nonprofit organization, right? And I knew that the job fair would also have a lot of people there that would be connected to different industries and different companies. Yeah. But before even the event started, I was in the lobby with some people and I met this great, it was like a software tech guy. And he was looking for a job. So we go into the career fair and, you know, you go out your thing. And I was talking to this lady who was looking for a software tech. And I said, oh, I know someone. And I ran and got him, right? And brought him over and introduced them. And I wanted to champion him because I got to know him. Yeah. Like in our short time that we were in the lobby talking, I wanted to champion him. At the same time, it built credibility for me that I was, you know, genuine and wanting to help people. So when I was telling her that I was looking for a speaker, she was more willing. She was very willing to listen and say, yeah, I would love to come speak at your organization and that kind of thing. So being the connector is that. But again, like you, I was championing for a different cause. Mm-hmm. I mean, mm-hmm. I didn't even, I mean, it was kind of obvious I was looking for a job because I was there. But other than that, I didn't tell people, hey, I'm looking for a job. Yeah. But it was easier for me to try and connect someone else and then connect a purpose to what I was doing. And ultimately, that's the way I kind of network in general. And that's what landed my last 3 roles.
Yeah. And that actually answers Jennifer Johnson's question on LinkedIn. How have your networking connections led to jobs? I have another example of that. Yeah, you answered that perfectly. Even for those of you that are actually in career transition or looking for jobs, by the way, I want to do a huge shout out to the Who You Know Job Networking Show, which is every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And I don't know if you can tag Trevor Houston, Mark Elder, and Foster Williams, but those 3 have been pivotal to helping so many job seekers find jobs online through LinkedIn.
Trevor. Yep, I interviewed Trevor.
Yeah, and so actually, I think I appeared on one of their shows, and so someone reached out to me afterwards to connect. And so obviously, I always look at their profiles and what they do, like whoever I'm connecting with. And I was like, oh, he's an engineer. He was a quality engineer. And at that time, and I was looking for some analysts, some business analysts. And I'm like, well, we need someone in quality management. And so I actually reached out to him through his connection of seeing me on the Who You Know show and said, hey, you know, have you ever heard about SAP? Would you be interested in an analyst job? And so we just kind of like message each other over time. And we've actually hired him since then. We, meaning Delaware North America, one of my corporate clients. And it was all because of that, like, just seeing somebody that you connected with, even on a show like this, right? There's tons of folks in the comments right now. I hope you guys are all connecting with each other. And through a series of events, I mean, he got a job with the corporate client that I'm supporting. So you never know. You never know. But I do want to kind of like get to one more illustration, if I may, Heidi, like how men and women network differently. I met a guy, I don't even know how I met him, but we started talking and I told him I was organizing job fairs at the time. And so he approached my statement by saying, oh, well, sign me up whenever you need a speaker. Sign me up whenever you need a speaker. Okay, so that's his way of like letting me know that he speaks and then to sign him up, right? It was a statement. It wasn't even a question. Sign me up when you need a speaker. Oh, okay. Whereas I know for me as a woman, I would have been like, oh, are you looking for speakers for those kind of events? I would love to, help out and let me know if you would be interested.
Yeah. Men are more direct.
That in itself, I think, is the perfect example of the difference in how we communicate and how we network. Yes. Sign me up if you need a speaker. And then me, oh, I speak at these events. If you're interested, I'd be interested in talking to you more and so forth. Like it's a very subtle difference, but it's there, right? Yeah.
Well, women are more subtle.
And sometimes it serves us and sometimes it doesn't, right?
Yes.
Anne says here, one of my favorite networking groups is Success North Dallas with Bill Wallace. Yes, I've heard a lot about that. Here's one. Was there any tip in reaching out to people with a goal of research from Braden? Yeah, I imagine this is a nuanced approach to that conversation. And I bet you probably network as a result of the research for your book, right?
Yes, and actually, one of my fellow authors, Douglas Scherer, he actually, we were talking about this on a video chat that we had. It started off, it kind of snowballs, right? So I did reach out, kind of like with Teresa. I reached out because I saw that she was an expert in her field, and I reached out to her, and then she introduced me to someone else. And then at the end of that conversation, they introduced me to someone else. I mean, there were different times. Sometimes they volunteered, say, hey, would you like to know who else? And other times I asked, and sometimes I had to be really very specific in my ask. Do you know someone who was an introvert and a great networker? Or do you know someone who is a leader in this XYZ industry and has tons of followers, or someone who has lots of connections and does business this way? So I had to be very intentional. And sometimes it was more, I'm looking for women networkers. I'm looking for business leaders. I'm looking for community leaders. And so I think it's okay. It's okay to ask, right? And so it's good to be intentional about what you need. Because hopefully by the time you're asking for that information, you've built that connection. So a lot of times it didn't start off with me asking first, obviously. It started off with asking the connection if it's okay to talk about this topic. Yeah. And then having that setting time for that conversation. And then at the end, who do you think would be a great person to ask next, to talk about this next?
And I do find that, to your point, like, when we give first, then others are also willing to give as a result of that, right? Yeah. Dolores in the comments was saying, yes, men and women network differently. I agree with your perspective on that subject. Teresa, yeah, men and women definitely network differently. Totally agree with Heidi. Men are more direct, but women end of building more loyal relationships to do business long term. Yeah, there's almost like a patience aspect to it, right? Yeah, and then yes, Cecilia, and I think maybe to talk about it, very openly. I think even as like Asians, right, we're we're just like, we grow up thinking, at least my parents, that like we should be quiet, right? And so there is a bit of like a cultural conditioning. I know I feel it sometimes, but that I've kind of had to like unlearn in order to kind of like grow in my career as well. So totally agree with you, Cecilia. Kevin Hand was saying, I think along with gender, yes, age and other socioeconomical factors would influence how you network as well. Have you noticed that too, Ashley? Did you interview like social economic factors? Did that enter into networking?
It did. One of the, oh my gosh, her name escapes me, but she is actually the podcast host of Bold Black Girls. And it's phenomenal.
Oh, Aries.
Aries, thank you. Oh my
Aries,
gosh. She's going to shoot me that I forgot. Okay, so
Aries.
So yes. I interviewed Aries, and
she's awesome.
She had great points about
Aries Webb Williams. That's what it is.
Yes, thank you. Great points about women, and then in the STEM industry and networking, and how she had to literally act different. So it's interesting because I always believe that you should be your authentic self, right? Because you need to represent truly who you are. But sometimes society really forces you to not be your authentic self. I know growing up, I struggled with being one of the few Asian women or girls in school, right? And actually being raised in a white family, which is a totally separate topic, but just kind of didn't have the money or the brand name clothes that my classmates had, and it was a struggle to fit in, right? Trying to find a way to fit in with them. And so there's a different levels, but I think part of it is going back, being interested in the other party and willing to learn from them is a huge way.
Absolutely. Braden has a great question. What do you do when people flake on networking appointments?
What do we do when they flake? Well, reach out, because sometimes it may be an honest mistake. First of all, it may be a very honest mistake that they didn't show up. I know I had a couple appointments set up with people who I know they really wanted to be there, and it didn't happen. When I reached out, it was an honest mistake of a different day. Like they had a different time zone. It was different day, different time zone, because I have a lot of people that I reached out on the East and West Coast. And so our calendars didn't sync up, and we were able to reconnect. And I don't think you want to burn that bridge anyways, right? So give them the benefit of the doubt first. Never assume that they did it on purpose. And then, some people will. Some people will obviously not show up when they say they show up. And if they keep not showing up, then you don't want to do business with them. You don't want a relationship with them because they're not interested. They're not really interested in you. And obviously they doesn't need to be interested in them if they're not going to show up repeatedly. But the one-off, give some grace. It's
Absolutely. So, oh my gosh, time flies, but I do want to kind of maybe end with some of any final networking tips, Heidi. We've already kind of shared a whole bunch, having a wingman, ask questions, but anything that we haven't covered that you want to kind of leave our audience with a networking tip?
Well, in my book, I do kind of refer to the 7-layer dip, and I call it the 7 layers of networking. So start off with your family, start off with your close friends, right? You build upon those relationships. Then kind of branch out to the next layers, your coworkers, your former coworkers, right? Keep going out, people in the industry, but not in your same organization. Keep branching out. Keep building on those different layers, and know that every interaction that you have, even if you're going into the grocery store, is an interaction, that it's a possibility for networking. You never know that cashier might be the next coordinator or studying to be the next executive. You don't know that. So, take interest, be interested. I'm just going to kind of plug one of my favorite grocery stores out there, has a great system. Actually, I'm not going to plug because one of my other friends is a competitor, but they have a great system of interacting with the customers as they're taking out your groceries to your car. And we need more of that. It forces the person to kind of interact with them, and you can learn a lot from them. So your dry cleaners, your grocery stores, all opportunities, along with the social events, along with actually network events, keep growing. There's tons of them out there, virtual, in person, different layers.
Absolutely. So let's plug your book, because I think everybody needs to read up on this. It's been fascinating. I mean, I've had several shows on networking, and but it's really interesting to see this evolution of networking, and then the from the introvert point of view, and then from the male and female point of view. So everyone, you have to check out the CEOs of Networking. Heidi, take it away as to this book launch.
So it actually comes out in August. And the CEOs stand for Connecting, Engaging, and the Opportunities to Serve, right? So it will be available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. I'm talking to some other book chains to see if they can carry it too. So definitely keep an eye out for it. You can also find out or keep tabs on me through my newsletter at hrheidi.com. Just sign up for it, and I'll be glad to give you all the updates.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for your time. Quick tip for the heart. When you're feeling uninspired, what would you say to someone?
Well, I kind of lean to my theme song, and that is actually the High Hopes by Panic by the Disco. So always know that you always have high hopes. Keep high hopes up there. It's never too late to start networking. I don't care how old you are or how young you are. It's never too late to start growing your networking through net friending and net playing.
I love it. Thank you, Heidi. So everyone, make sure you connect with Heidi Torres. She is all over LinkedIn, so you can definitely look her up there. She also has her website. Sign up for her newsletter, hrheidi.com, and then look out for her book launch, CEOs of Networking. And you have one book to give away, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's ask the audience something you said, and we have to test their knowledge, basically.
Okay.
That's a question we can ask the audience to test the knowledge, and then whoever kind of comments wins.
How did we get connected?
Yes. Okay. Whoever says it first. How did Heidi and I get connected? Does anyone remember? Does anyone remember that? And you will get a signed copy of her book when it launches, The CEOs of Networking. Let's see in the comments below. And in the meantime, Teresa says LinkedIn, kind of. There was somebody that introduced the two of us. Does anyone remember that name? Who introduced the two of us? Sharon says, maybe our question's too hard. I missed the first part of the video. Okay, last chance. David said Las Colinas event. No, that was something else. We stumped them, Heidi. We stumped them. Okay, ask another question. They weren't paying attention. By the way, it's Michael Goldberg. It was Michael Goldberg that connected us. Okay, Michael Goldberg. You guys have to connect with him as well. He's a great connector in the job search world.
Oh my gosh, what can we ask? What was my nickname at the Dallas HR event? Or how was I known as?
Oh, that's good. Yes. Okay, last chance. What was Heidi's nickname at the Dallas HR event? I know the answer to that one. Okay, last chance. Otherwise, we're just going to pick randomly from the audience. Braden's like, I didn't know there's a test. There's always a test, Braden. If you want a gift, you get a test. Heidi, oh, Teresa says, HR Heidi. No. Okay, test. I think, okay, just randomly pick then. Let's scroll through the comments. Okay, I'm going to just scroll and you tell me when to stop, and that's who I'll stop on.
Okay. Stop.
Okay, it's Dolores. Dolores Garcia. Dolores Garcia, you have won a copy. I stopped on her comment right here. It's perfect. I am an introvert. I can network depending on the situation. Dolores Garcia, you have won a copy of Heidi's book. We will get you guys connected, and then I guess Dolores can send you her address, and you can send it to her, okay. Heidi.
Yes.
Awesome.
I will. I'm looking through the comments. I think Kevin actually did come up with it, so I'm willing to throw in a second book.
Perfect. Awesome. Where's Kevin's comment?
He said the selfie queen.
Yes, there it is. Okay, so we gave away 2 books, Kevin Hand and Dolores Garcia. Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your great insights. I hope all of you guys learned a few things about networking that you didn't know. And be sure to grab a copy of her book when it launches. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for your time. Awesome. And then let me just throw out there real quick for the Association of Business Technology. Stay tuned, Heidi. Just give me a chance. The Association of Business Technology Professionals, whom I'm on the board with. For all you technology professionals out there, we have another chapter meeting coming up on June 22nd. And for all you tech and cybersecurity geeks, corporate security breaches and how to protect your firm, with Rich Stark, the CIO of CrowdStrike. I hope you guys will join us in person at Las Colinas Country Club. We're going to talk all around this important topic. After all, it was a security breach that cut off like a whole bunch of fuel and gas to the East Coast. So it definitely affects all our lives. Be sure to register at abtpdfw.org. And I hope to see you there as well in person. And for all of you out there, please continue to shine your light and share your message, share your gifts, share your voice with the world. And I hope you do it through video, because it's a great way to connect and network as well. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Anne, in the comments. And see everyone in 2 weeks. Thank you for tuning in, everyone.